All right, let's tear this one apart. Joining us, Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief, National Review. Katie Pavlich, editor at townhall.com and a Fox News contributor. Byron York, chief political correspondent at the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor. Let's play some sound. We're going to run some more sound. Here's the attack in all of its glory. Hang on a second, kids. We'll be right back.
While Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes.
All right. I'm going to Katie Pavlich first. Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist? Do you think he's Hitler? I mean, who's unhinged here is John Kelly, and the next person who's unhinged is Kamala Harris. I mean, who's going to buy into this at this late date with this kind of stuff, which, by the way, is not new because Peter Baker and his wife, Susan Glasser, wrote this up, again, with a quote from John Kelly, 2 years ago, I think, Katie, and that was never corroborated. I was in the Oval Office hundreds of times and never heard him say it. Somehow John Kelly heard him say it, but nobody else heard him say it. What do you make of this?
Well, Democrats have been calling Republicans Nazis for a very long time. There's a long list. Nikki Haley is a Nazi, according to them. George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, who they're now celebrating as a supporter of Kamala Harris, Ron DeSantis, a Nazi. So they throw this out as a smear, and it's really just a disrespectful denigration of what Hitler actually did. And they use it as a cheap political point, which I find absolutely revolting on that end. But in terms of Kamala Harris and where she's getting this argument that she's making, she's getting it from the piece in The Atlantic, which has been thoroughly debunked by a number of people like you who were in the room, who understood the situation that it was being discussed in that article. And the woman who owns The Atlantic just happens to be Kamala Harris's best friend. So we're a week and a half away from the election. They're putting it out there as a Hail Mary to try and save her campaign. And it's a lot of projection because just this week and last night, Kamala Harris said she wants to get rid of the filibuster to push forward her Democratic agenda without any Republican support. She said she wants to pack the Supreme Court, which would destroy it and enable it to be a Democratic machine to codify their agenda. So for someone who's accusing Trump of being a fascist, she sure is making a lot of moves and statements that show maybe she's the one who's actually out from ultimate power that has nothing to do with democracy.
You know, Byron York, I think Katie's on target here. Kamala Harris is just throwing punches wildly, hoping something will land. So far, nothing has landed. She and her team have spent almost twice as much money in the last couple months as Donald Trump. Her numbers have gone down. Trump's numbers have gone up. And, Byron, what do you do with all these Democrats who are now mentioning Donald Trump favorably in their ads? I mean, really, I exaggerated only a little bit, but I count Sherrod Brown, Bob Casey, Tammy Bowen, Alita. I got 6, and then I'm going to add Robert Kennedy, and I could add Tulsi Gabbard to that. I know they're not running for the Senate, but I'm going to call it 8, good enough for government work. And you see my point? So if they're all Trump, if they're all wanting to be with Trump, then what happened to Hitler, and what happened to fascism, and what happened to John, and what happened to all this nonsense? I'm saying nobody's listening to her. I'm saying this is worse than desperation. They're not paying attention to her, Byron.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, for example, Casey has an ad that says that Bob Casey, sided against Joe Biden and with Donald Trump to preserve fracking. So, it's just, that's what they're doing. I think that this is the end result of an empty campaign. And this has all happened on a very accelerated basis, obviously, because a lot of this stuff would have come up in the course of a long primary campaign, which the Democrats chose not to have this time around. But there was a moment in the CNN town hall last night. A political science professor gets up and asks Kamala Harris, if you could accomplish only one major policy goal that required congressional action, what would it be and why? And Harris didn't have an answer. A top priority, she had nothing to say, and she talked a long time, but she had absolutely nothing to say. And I think what has happened is, in this brief, truncated, accelerated campaign, the voters have sensed that there is a bit of an emptiness at the core of the Harris campaign, and it started with this joy and weird stuff, and then she tentatively moved out a real bare bones policy agenda. Doesn't seem to be working. Actually had some press scrutiny with Bret Baier with 60 Minutes and then with the town hall on CNN last night, but has really shown to be kind of an empty vessel here. And somehow we got to Hitler. The DNC, by the way, has a mobile Hitler truck that's going to be circling Trump's event in Las Vegas this evening.
Oh,
so
Wow.
That's really something.
How did we get here? I don't really know.
Well, I guess Katie was right, though. It's only a matter of time before the Democrats go back to Hitler. He's like their favorite go-to guy at the end of this thing. If it weren't so horrible and despicable, it would have a little bit of humor, but it's pretty horrible and despicable. But Rich Lowry, so I didn't even know this. I learned this today. Somebody said, I read someplace, good heavens no. Let me get this right. Donald Trump is now cresting the Al Smith dinner, extra salt on the McDonald's fries, and he's going to have the biggest sellout crowd in the Madison Square Garden Arena, probably in the history of sellout crowds at the Madison Square Garden Arena. He's already sold out by 6 or 8 times. It'll be 15 or 20 times. The Knicks and the Rangers couldn't do near as well as he's going to do. Now, what I learned today, after he's going to go out and sell out Madison Square Garden in a barn burner, I think he'll be emceed by and introduced by Elon Musk. Wait for it. Kamala is going on the ellipse to talk about January 6th, 2021. Now, she ought to fire her consultants ahead of time. I'm just asking her, save your money, because the rate of return on that investment is going to be just as negative as these other crazy investments she's been making, Rich Lowry. Save your money.
Yeah, so they invested a lot in the beginning in trying to build her up, joy and all the rest of it. And that phase is gone, and it didn't work. So now they're back to the F word. And as Katie points out, this is supposed to appeal to suburban Republicans who are disaffected from Trump. But Republicans, they're used to be calling fascist. Every candidate we've ever advanced has been called a fascist at some point. And Larry, so it reeks of desperation, and for good reason. Like, we're seeing the public evidence of it now. I believe the Wall Street Journal and the CNBC polls might be the best general election polls we've ever seen from Donald Trump, leading by 2 or 3 points in the popular vote. Usually he's behind a little bit in the popular vote. You're like, oh, he's going to win the Electoral College. But he's ahead in the popular vote. And the Wall Street Journal poll, Kamala Harris's job approval rating is 42%. Whose job approval is that like? Joe Biden. So it's almost like this whole last 3 months didn't happen, and she's found her natural state, which is right there with the incumbent president, that she's done nothing to distance herself from.
Byron, I mean, no, go back to Katie on this. Katie, Mr. Trump has never been above 50% on his favorability. From the moment he came down the escalator, this is a new high. That's why this is such a bizarre story, but it's also a very important story. It tells you a lot. People here, I'll summarize. Kudlow summary. People don't want to re-elect Biden-Harris. How's that? They do not want 4 more years of Biden-Harris in whatever order and whatever age grouping you want to put them. The country doesn't want it.
Well, you have this easy comparison between the 4 years under Trump and the 4 years under Biden-Harris. And also, you're seeing in the data today that Trump is adding. He's winning among independents in swing states. He's winning more of them over in the last days leading up to the election. Whereas Harris is kind of at a ceiling when it comes to her polling, and she's not adding, which also drives to exactly why she's doubling down on January 6th and the Hitler references, because she doesn't even have her core base together yet. So they're really focused on just turning out the people they know respond to that message rather than doing the addition. And all the endorsements that you're seeing for Trump are new people in the Republican Party, whereas for Kamala, it's like Bruce Springsteen and Beyonce, and maybe Liz Cheney as maybe a new Democrat in the party. So Trump is adding, which is what you want to do in politics, and Kamala is subtracting.
I think think there's going to be 25, 30 Democrats running for the U.S. Senate that endorse Trump outright. They're already in. They already got him in their ad. These, by the way, are not negative ads. These are positive ads. That's what's so bizarre about it. It's getting even more. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Act of desperation. You're all terrific stuff. Rich Lowry, Katie Pavlich, Byron York. Please come visit us on set next time around. Thanks for today.